Hey guys, how's it going? We're here to talk about the 98th Academy Awards, of course, and there were definitely a lot of surprises in some ways, but also less than I would have expected. It was kind of all over the place, especially when it came to the below-the-line stuff, but, you know, that's always how it tends to be. You can't go into the Academy Awards thinking you're going to have everything predicted, and I'll get into some of those categories, well, in fact, all those categories, so I will try to breeze through this as much as possible, but still be as in-depth as I can, because there were a lot of stats that were broken last night, which are pretty insane, and we are going to talk about that right off the bat with the first award of the night. But before I get into that, just to preface, I didn't get to watch the opening monologue where, you know, Conan's playing Aunt Gladys, because we could not get the service to work, or find one that could play the Oscars for us, and I don't know if that was just something on our end, but also, to be fair, like, we tried to go on abc.com and it just was not working. So Academy, you really need to figure your shit out when it comes to, like, streaming the show, at least until we get it passed over to YouTube, which is going to be so convenient for literally everybody. And so I do think that that was the best move. But yeah, for next year, please figure your shit out, because we do not want to have to miss any part of the show. So that's all I have to say about that. I don't have as much to say about the opening monologue, if not at all. I'll definitely check it out later. But the first award of the night, Best Supporting Actress, ended up going to Amy Madigan in Weapons. This is insane, because this is a movie, of course, as you know, one of the best horror films from last year, probably one of the best films of the year, and, you know, it came out in August, and the marketing didn't include her at all, and then it was like, who is this woman who's playing this, you know, crazy, iconic, now iconic character, at least, in Aunt Gladys, and we're like, oh, Amy Madigan, she hasn't been around in a while, and for a horror movie to come out in the middle of August, kickstart this campaign for an actress who hasn't been nominated for an Oscar in 40 years and somehow be the lone nominee for her film and end up winning over other people who were in Best Picture frontrunners, like, that is unheard of. I mean, maybe it happened more back in the day before the modern age of the Academy, but we really don't see triumphs like this at the Oscars. And I really think that this is a tremendous win, especially for the horror genre. I mean, come on, let's be honest, this was a great night for the horror genre at the Academy Awards, better than any other night in history, I would say. And that Amy Madigan win was the first thing to kick it all off, and I just love her. She seems like such a genuine, sweet person, and her acceptance speeches are just so genuine and just so sweet. I really love that. Wholesome, I think, is a word you could say, and relatable. I think everybody loves her in the industry, and also to see Ed Harris there supporting his wife. That man needs an Oscar. He is way long overdue. Let's get Ed Harris another great role, even though he's been in great stuff, obviously. But really happy for Amy Madigan taking home this award. And then we got into the animation categories. Now, last year, when I watched In the Shadow of the Cypress, which won, I thought this is, you know, what the award was made for. I felt that way even more so about Butterfly, especially considering the subject matter. I mean, hell, it was an honorable mention on my best films of the year, which, by the way, I say this every year, but if you have not checked that out, I poured so much work into that the past week. I love sharing my picks for these movies with you, and, you know, bringing perhaps films that you haven't seen to your attention. So if you could, I would really appreciate a watch on that video. But it did make my honorable mentions on that list. And I thought a lot of people felt the same way as I did, at least, you know, outside of the Academy, so maybe that's not worth anything, because The Girl Who Cried Pearls ended up winning, and that's the first stop-motion animated short film to win since Peter and the Wolf. I think that was like 2007. So yeah, this really caught me off guard. I did not expect it to win. It was probably one of the better shorts in that category, probably my second favorite if I had to narrow it down. So, you know, not a bad win, but Butterfly should have won far and away. But still, you know, there's a lot of stats being broken. The non-English component of it all is usually supposedly a big factor, but I don't really think so as much. I'm definitely don't buy much credence into that. But yeah, then of course K-Pop Demon Hunters won Best Animated Feature, which we all expected. It's kind of insane how that movie took off like a rocket in the middle of last year. And yet again, like Flow that won last year, I did not review it on my channel. And I'll just give my little brief review on K-Pop Demon Hunters. I mean, I think it's good. The highs of it are incredible. But I think when it's very hit or miss with its humor and, you know, kind of rushing through a lot of character beats, it does fall a little short of the mark for me. I really don't know why Little Amelie wasn't sweeping this entire season, which was one of my top 10 favorite films of 2025. But yet again, this is one of the most wrapped up awards of the night, so no surprise there whatsoever. And then you had Anne Hathaway and Anna Wintour come out and present the Costume Design and Makeup Awards. They had a nice little exchange. Of course, the press for The Devil Wears Prada 2 is really kicking in a high gear, it seems. But to no surprise, these both went to Frankenstein. Some of the most undeniable work in the technical craft categories, I think, the entire night. So very, very well deserved. And then, of course, there was the inaugural Best Casting Oscar, which you had, you know, everyone come out from their respective movies, like Paul Mescal for Hamnet, Gwyneth Paltrow, Marty Supreme, Wagner Moore's Secret Agent, Delroy Lindo for Sinners, and Chase Infinity. Oh my goodness, who looked absolutely tremendous. Ooh. But yeah, they all came out and presented this award, and this was one of the most insane moments of the night. Because as soon as Cassandra Kulakundas won for One Battle After Another, I knew it was over for Sinners. I mean, everyone expected Sinners to perform so well here, and this to be one of the absolute undeniable awards that it walks away with at the end of the night. But it was not. It was One Battle After Another. And I think that this is really interesting because this could go one of two ways going forward in the future. Either one, they actually are looking at the casting of that movie as opposed to the ensemble. Because there were some very inspired casting choices within the film of, you know, non-professional actors and just really interesting choices when it came to putting people in different spots you wouldn't expect them to be in. But also, is this an indicator of the winner of Best Picture, which this, of course, aligned with? I don't know. It's tough to say at this point, but I knew I was like, that kind of support was definitely not going without a win in the top category, and so definitely something to look out for going forward, but still, this was a great win regardless, even though I did want to see Sinners take this award home. And then you had one of the most interesting moments of the night, probably one of the most historic moments of the night, where Kumail Nanjiani came on to present live-action short. And, you know, like I said, this is always a crapshoot with these categories, especially, you know, what happened in animated short. But when he announced it was a tie, I was like, what? Like, this is the first time this has happened in over a decade. I think the last one was Zero Dark 30 and Skyfall in one of the sound categories back in 2013. So 13 years ago. Absolutely insane. But the thing that was so great about how Kumail handled that was he's like, okay, we're going to announce one first, have them come on. And I thought that was a really great idea, the way he thought about that on the spot. So props to Kumail Nanjiani for figuring that out. And the winners, of course, were the singers and two people exchanging saliva, the latter of which I would have voted for if I were in the Academy. So, and the one I predicted, so I was really happy to see that win. It feels like the most complete short film out of all of those ones, and I do think that it is by a hair the best. But the singers was fun too. It, you know, definitely appealed to a lot of people. And yeah, so it's like, wow, if someone did not vote in one of those categories, there wouldn't have been a tie. And because now you have to watch all of them, and I don't think many people are as inclined to watch the short film. So we might be seeing more ties in the next few years. Not saying that that will happen 100% of the time, or even, I mean, the fact that it took 10 years for a tie to occur in any category again. But I do suspect there might be a bit of a rise in that in the way the voting has changed this past year. And then you get to one of the best wins, in my opinion, of the entire night in Best Supporting Actor, of course, went to Sean Penn for his performance as Colonel Lockjaw in One Battle After Another, with maybe the best acceptance speech. Like, you know, you look back at that year with Joaquin Phoenix having to awkwardly accept for Anthony Hopkins, who was in Wales at the time during COVID. But the fact that Sean Penn wasn't there and he was in Ukraine with Zelensky is even more hysterical. Gotta respect the guy for that. But Kieran Culkin, of all people, of course, last year's winner, presenting, saying Sean couldn't be here tonight or he didn't want to be. Leave it up to Kieran Culkin to always give the best speeches, even when he's not winning. So yeah, but this is the thing that's so amazing about this win for Sean Penn. His third acting Oscar. And this is amazing because Sean Penn has become one of only 8 actors to win 3 Oscars, and that includes Jack Nicholson, Daniel Day-Lewis, Walter Brennan, Meryl Streep, Frances McDormand, Ingrid Bergman, and Katharine Hepburn. Like, that's absolutely insane. And even though he's been gone for such a long time, it doesn't entirely surprise me that Sean Penn was one of the few to do it, even though he does not care. Which makes it even more impressive because he did like little to no campaigning. He shows up at the Golden Globes smoking cigs, and then he wins the Academy Award. I think that is the perfect example of what should be awarded. It shouldn't all be about, you know, getting out there and putting yourself out in the media so people can like you and vote for you, which it does work. Obviously it worked for Amy Madigan, but with Penn it's purely based on the power of that performance alone. And I think that that's what these wins should be about, the merit on which the performance is based, which isn't to say like Amy Madigan is undeserving or anything. I'm not saying that, but this is an example of just the work speaking for itself. And it was so strange when Benicio del Toro started sweeping for the same film for the entire, you know, beginning of the season with all the critics circles and stuff. And so, you know, the way it kind of circled back around to Penn was how we thought it would have gone walking out of One Battle After Another. So really though, I'm so happy, whether he cares or not, that he has won a 3rd Academy Award, because I think that was one of the top 5 performances of the year and my pick to win Best Supporting Actor as well. And then you had Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans come out to present the Screenwriting Awards. Did not like their bit at all. It was kind of cringy. Love those guys, but you know, I wasn't a fan of that. But of course, the 2 most expected winners of the night, with adapted screenplay going to Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, and original screenplay going to Ryan Coogler for Sinners. And I really loved both their speeches, especially how they made it about their kids. And I just think it really speaks to their humility as artists. So it seems, especially Ryan Coogler, that guy has come off so well throughout this entire awards season. And then of course Paul shouting out his wife Maya Rudolph and their kid. I mean, it was just a really, really classy speech from both of them, and probably 2 of the most deserving screenplay winners that we've seen in the past few years. So props off to them for their just due flowers. Both Paul Thomas Anderson and Ryan Coogler are Academy Award winners in writing, but you know, we'll get into more about Paul Thomas Anderson later on, because then right after we had a whole break, or a whole block sectioned out for the In Memoriam. And I really do think that this was one of the nicest, most tasteful and thoughtful segments that they've done in this regard, especially the opening tribute to Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, with everybody from all his movies, except Corey Feldman. I guess they really don't like Corey Feldman. It was extremely emotional to see that. And then, of course, you know, we see all the legends who passed throughout the year, you know, Robert Duvall, and then Rachel McAdams coming on to do the Diane Keaton segment, and then we get to Redford with Streisand coming out and singing The Way We Were. That was a really, really touching moment as well, especially to see Streisand on stage with obviously her voice, you know, at this point in time sounding a little bit more withered, but still absolutely beautiful. Like, there's no mistaking that's the voice of Barbra Streisand. Just one of the most touching tributes I've seen, especially for Redford, who I've never heard a bad word about. You could say the same thing about Diane Keaton, Rob Reiner, all of them just seem like genuinely good people, especially for such a legendary stature that they had. That's really, really amazing to hear, and quite frankly hard to come by. And the press tour continues, but this time with The Mandalorian and Grogu, with Sigourney Weaver and Pedro Pascal coming out to present Best Production Design and Best Visual Effects. Which, there was a great Grogu bit, by the way. I hope that becomes a meme of him, like, waving his hands around, and it was so, it was great. I really loved that part of the ceremony. Glad to see Grogu at the Oscars, but yeah, of course, production design went to Frankenstein, one of the most no-brainer wins of the entire night, as well as visual effects to Avatar Fire and Ash, which is probably even more of a no-brainer, even though that movie itself, you know, you could argue the merits of the actual film, but the visual effects you cannot. Just absolutely undeniable from top to bottom, so good wins in both those categories. And then you had Jimmy Kimmel presenting the documentary awards. It's weird to see Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars presenting and not hosting. Like, my brain was kind of broken watching that. But this was probably one of the biggest surprises. Not for the short, all the empty rooms, very, very deserving. Of course, about the empty rooms left in the wake of school shootings. It was the expected winner, and really just a very touching, stirring, relevant film to take home the award. But the big surprise of the night for me was Mr. Nobody Against Putin winning Best Documentary Feature over The Perfect Neighbor, which, you know, it's like, it's a very good film, and Pavel, to see him get on stage, he really is a hero to be able to record all that footage and smuggle it out, so that alone deserves an Oscar. But Perfect Neighbor is one of the most amazing and innovative documentaries I've ever seen. You know, of course, only using body cam footage to tell the story of this tragic incident that happened. And I thought it was going to be one of those instances, the fact it was nominated, it was going to win, but they went with the BAFTA winner. And I think that might be more predictive in the years to come, and maybe has been. So, you know, still, like, it's good to see him with an Oscar, but I really, really think it was a missed opportunity to award, I think, one of the best documentaries ever made. And then, of course, you had all the Bridesmaids alum won an Academy Award nominee at the ceremony, with Rose Byrne presenting the original score and sound winners. Of course, Ludwig Göransson on an absolutely generational run, winning his third Academy Award in less than 10 years, okay, for Sinners, which I think is going to go down as one of the all-time great film scores, especially the way they utilize genre fusion and so many memorable and iconic motifs at this point in time. It's really, really amazing, the work he's been doing. I think he's on his way to join the greats like Hans Zimmer and, Ennio Morricone. I mean, just give it some time. This guy's going to get there. And I love the speech about how his father put the guitar in his hands, and that is what he ended up, taking with him all the way to the Academy Awards stage. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. It got him to where he is today, and it was just so beautiful to see that. And then, of course, F1, cars go vroom vroom, win sound. That's all I really have to say about that film. And then, of course, the Oscar for Best Film Editing went to Andy Jurgensen for One Battle After Another. One of the most no-brainer wins, once again, to be entirely expected, considering how perfectly edited and paced that film is, and considering it was the Best Picture winner. But what wasn't expected was that Best Cinematography win for Autumn Gerald Arkapaw, who became the first woman to ever win Best Cinematography, and first woman of color, in fact. That really was such a shocking moment, because Michael Bauman was winning everything for One Battle After Another, like the BAFTA, the ASC. So this really is one of the most stat-breaking moments, I think, because the last film to have lost after winning that combo was Children of Men, back in the 2007 ceremony. So to see this happen is such a phenomenal, historic moment. And I would have picked Sinners anyway. I mean, just for the I Lied to You sequence alone, it's one of the greatest winners of all time. Sure, some people argue about the lighting a little bit, but I think that this was an incredibly warranted win, and more deserving than One Battle After Another. Even though Train Dreams holds a special spot in my heart, I think that was the objectively best shot film of the year. But this, I can't argue this win. This is absolutely phenomenal. It's crazy that it's taking literally 98 years to get a woman onto the stage to accept that award. So shout out to Autumn Durald Arkapaw on her absolutely historic win. And then, of course, we had Javier Bardem and Priyanka Chopra Jonas come on to present International Feature, and I loved that Javier got up on stage, said his piece about world peace, in fact, and just got straight to the award. Love that stuff. You just keep it brief, but let them know how you feel and what you stand for. Shout out to Javier Bardem, as always. But yeah, this went to sentimental value, to, well, maybe some people surprised. I was not surprised, because listen, you gotta understand, a film with 9 nominations, a Best Director nomination, and Best Picture. Of course, Secret Agent had Best Picture, but this really is a top 5 movie. And there has never been a case, except last year, where a top 5 movie and picture loses in this category where it was nominated. And honestly, last year is the only comparison we have. But that was because everybody fucking hated Emilia Perez after a certain point, turned their back on it with the controversy, and then went with I'm Still Here, which surged at the absolutely perfect moment. And I think probably people realized how much more meaningful that film is. And so, yet again, you can never bet against a top 5 movie winning in this category unless there's some extreme circumstances around it. That has never broken in 98 years. Granted, we've never usually had more than one Best Picture nominee in this category, and I have no reason to believe that that is going to change anytime soon. But great win. Of course, I would have gone for The Voice of Hind Rajab out of these nominees, but Sentimental Value is, objectively one of the best films of the year, and I can't argue that win whatsoever. Very happy that Joachim Trier was finally recognized by the Academy for his work. It made sense after the screenplay nomination and international feature nomination for his last film, The Worst Person in the World, culminating to this wonderful moment where we got to see everybody go up on stage. So yeah, congrats to Joachim Trier and the whole cast and crew of Sentimental Value. And then Best Original Song, I was going to try to hedge my bets on thinking Sinners would overperform and I Lied to You winning. That did not pan out, of course. It went to Golden for K-Pop Demon Hunters, and I get it, it's a big sensational hit. I just don't fully get the appeal of it being a Best Original Song winner, especially considering how I Lied to You is in service of one of the most transcendent scenes in the history of the movies. Okay, I guess. But this moment, I think, was particularly insightful as to why the Academy hates Korean people. Because when the second songwriter started trying to give a speech, they played him off egregiously so. And they tried to play someone off earlier, but then they, said, hey, let's stop the music and let them speak. And that was like, wow, okay, I'm like, maybe they're actually changing. And then that happened, and like, nope. So that was one of the most disrespectful moments of the entire night. So I don't know, they really need to do something about that, especially considering how long some other people are able to speak. I really don't understand why that needed to happen at all. But also it was great to see Lionel Richie up on stage, previous winner in this category, so that was cool. And then of course we get to Best Director, Paul Thomas Anderson. What do you expect at this point? Yet again, another very gracious, very, very lovely speech. I think what stood out to me about this ceremony were all the speeches, because this is one of my favorites of the past few years. Maybe not better than last year overall, but I do think that it was just so beautiful hearing what these artists have to say about their work and just really make it about everybody around them. I thought that was really, really wonderful as well. And so, obviously, long overdue, one of the greatest filmmakers in the history of cinema has finally been recognized with his Best Director trophy. And then, of course, we get to the Best Actor award with Adrian Brody making fun of himself in his long-ass speech last year. So I was glad to see him in on the joke. And it was really cool seeing him stand beside Michael B. Jordan winning the Best Actor award, which is really, really, wow, what a triumph. Like, we did not know this was happening until literally a few weeks ago. And even though he would be my third in that category, and I think that there are more deserving performances just given throughout 2025, he is such a gracious, humble guy by all accounts, and just really has such a great career. He's only 39 years old, but the work he's been putting in the past decade is absolutely tremendous. And I think that this culmination of his performances as Smoke and Stack really is a good win in this category. Like, I am certainly not upset that he won it all, and he gave a great speech, of course, shouting out all the black winners in the lead categories throughout the years. I'm sure he rehearsed that, but still, it was beautiful nonetheless to see him join that legacy of Denzel Washington and Sidney Poitier and Halle Berry and Jamie Foxx, Forrest Whitaker. Well, he mentioned Will Smith, but, that's okay. But yeah, very happy for Michael B. Jordan to finally get an Academy Award. Yet again, I love it when something so unexpected happens at the last minute, even though we all knew going into the ceremony that he would win. And now you have to wonder, when is Timothée Chalamet going to win? And obviously he looked very happy for Jordan. But yeah, maybe they're going to make him wait like DiCaprio. Give it another 10 years and then maybe Timothée Chalamet will have an Oscar. But honestly, at the rate that he's going on, I think that he'll probably get one much sooner. And I do think he's going to have to kind of censor himself a little bit going forward and how he presents himself on the campaign trail. I respect the hustle, man, though. Really, like, he's just going out there being as genuine as possible, flouting a little bit of ego. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but, not a lot of people respond to that, and I think that maybe this was like a bit of a lesson in humility. I'm not saying anything negative against Timothée Chalamet. I love the guy, but we're going to see how that pans out. He's going to be in Dune Part 3, so maybe that will be another player for him. I really don't think so with the Dune movies, but yet again, I think that this was an insanely interesting race, and the way it played out was definitely one of the most unexpected, but at the same time expected moments, with Sinners still winning 4 Academy Awards, which we originally thought was going to be the case. But they just switched a couple categories, that and one battle after another. But anyways, Jessie Buckley wins Best Actress. Of course, the most no-brainer win probably the entire night. And one of the best speeches she's continuously made. Great speeches. Of course, her husband was there. It was really, really great to see that. Yet again, one of the all-time wins in that category. Don't really need to say much more beyond that, except, congratulations, Oscar winner Jessie Buckley. And then, of course, we get the Best Picture, which was One Battle After Another. It's a nobody's surprise. I love that Nicole Kidman didn't even waste any time in announcing it, because we all knew. And, it's weird, because for me, it was not really exciting to see it win, even though that was a movie I would have picked to win. So, yeah, I mean, Sinners would have been really, really amazing to see, especially a film of that sort of genre and connotation, but yet again, I can't deny One Battle After Another, and neither could the Academy. I knew that this was going to win, especially when it won casting. It is my favorite Best Picture winner of the decade. It's the only one to me that is a bona fide masterpiece, a perfect film from top to bottom. I think that this is going to stand the test of time, and I do like that he mentioned in his speech the timeliness of this film, and I think that's another reason why it won, because Sinners is more timeless in some ways, but this reflects our times now better than anything I could possibly think of, and I still think that in the future this will probably be seen as a cinematic classic. So, yet again, can't argue that.
I just want to say that in 1975, the Oscar nominees for Best Picture were Dog Day Afternoon, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jaws, Nashville, and Barry Lyndon. There is no best among them. There is just what that mood might be that day.
And yeah, that was the 98th Academy Awards. I really thought this show was great. Some people thought it was a little bit boring. And the ending Conan bit where he's kind of mirroring Colonel Lockjaw, this time as the all-time forever Oscar host. I mean, could he be? I mean, he does a great job every year, so I wouldn't mind. It was like, whatever. But it's interesting that they actually referenced the end of the movie. But I guess they figured everybody had seen it, so I guess that was their thought process there. But yeah, overall, very, very, very good show. There were a couple of hiccups here and there. but it might have not have been the most entertaining. But the performances were great too, especially I Lied to You. You got everybody on stage, Miles Caton, Buddy Guy, Jamie Lawson, everybody from the movie was there, and I really do think that Miles Caton sounded absolutely exceptional, almost as good as he sounded in the movie. So that was really amazing, especially to, you know, maintain that same amount of tone and clarity. So really, really great stuff. Same with Golden, that was entertaining. Yeah, I don't think that there were too many outlandish things that happened, but of course there were a couple of instances that could have been handled a lot better, especially with the original song presentation. But yeah, I'm overall very happy with this group of winners. Besides, you know, I've aired out my grievances with all these. But yet again, I think that this was an even better set of winners than last year. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the 98th Academy Awards. What did you think? Was it one of your favorite shows? Were you not as entertained by a lot of the, you know, ad-lib bits and just the show as a whole? Let me know down in the comments below, and please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I do this coverage every year, and I'm glad I could get on here again to bring another Oscars video to you guys. So, in the meantime, stay well, and I will talk to you all very soon.